Hello, everyone. It's 9:30, so I think we are ready to begin. I hope you can hear me well. Thank you for being here with us today and to discuss about this important topic of the environmental impact of ICT. So my name is Anaïs Aubert and I work at RCEP, where I am the Deputy Head of Economic Analysis and Digital Unit. And I am also the co-chair of the BEREC Group, the European body of regulators in charge of sustainability. So today we would like to analyze concrete illustrations of best practices developed in order to increase the environmental efficiency of each block of the internet value chain. And we will deal with such best practices from the viewpoint of both energy consumption and also life cycle. We will talk about best practices, but of course, the presupposition is not that everything is going well. On the contrary, but we would like to highlight what and how we can do better. So to begin with, it's important to note that we would like to focus on the impact of the sector itself. We do not question at all that ICT could have positive impacts for climate action, but we will consider how we can minimize the negative impacts of the sector itself. For this, first of all, I would like to underline a few figures on the impact of the digital sector on the environment. So first of all, note that ICT as a whole represents 8 to 10% of the electricity consumptions and 2 to 4% of carbon emissions at the global level. And ICT emissions could increase up to 40% of global emission by 2040. Second of all, data centers all over the world alone are set to account by 2025 for as much as greenhouse gas emissions as all air traffic. And when it comes to digital devices, they are the main source of digital's environmental impact. Not that to produce a mobile phone, 60 different metals be recycled. Moreover, 22 kilograms of raw materials are needed to produce a microchip weighing 2 grams. And finally, life of digital devices has steadily decreased between 1985 to 2015, and the useful life of a computer today was reduced from 11 years to only 4 years. So considering these facts, we believe that we need to develop a truly integrated and innovative solutions to meet the UN 2030 agenda's targets regarding environmental sustainability and climate action. So that's why we are here today to discuss about actions. And so we welcome today 4 panelists to discuss these issues. So we have Ruki Yi from Greenpeace, Paolo Gima from the International Telecommunication Union, Agnieszka Skorumpinska from Vodafone, and Gauthier Wuchil, a designer and researcher focusing on digital design and environmental impacts of the digital industry. Thank you very much all to be here today. And Ruki, if you may, we will begin with you. Thank you for being here, Yuki. And we are so glad to have Greenpeace on board today. And please, can you tell us about the issue that you are trying to tackle regarding energy consumption in particular, and what you are doing in East Asia as an NGO in this regard? Thank you, Ricky.
Thanks for inviting me. Really happy to be here. Is my voice okay at the moment? Cool. Yeah, I'd like to introduce a little bit about our project on the data center work in China. Actually, we have been focusing on the potential of the ICT sector and renewable energy since 10 years ago, around 2010. It started with our US office. And we really started to look at this work in Asia around 2017. We were looking at Korea, Taiwan, and China at the time, as well as the US, and see how these four regions can have corporate procurement of renewable energy. So moving from 2017 to 2019, we started a project in China specifically looking at China's own ICT sector and its growth and its carbon emission trajectory, and thinking about how we can help the sector in China to move towards 100% renewable energy. So I think we have all heard the introduction pretty well, like the ICT sector is facing the carbon emission challenge, specifically from its large energy consumption. And depending on the grid, as you probably all know, China is pretty coal heavy, coal reliant. So the ICT sector here is also very coal reliant. And in order to bring China towards to meeting its Paris climate goal, like the ICT sector is one of the very important sectors that needs to address its carbon emission as well. So in addition to just our scale of the carbon emission in China and also in the growth of ICT sector here, we also probably all know that China's ICT sector is growing very fast. And that's why this market is especially important if we're talking about global carbon neutrality, and we're looking at the sector overall, and China is an important battleground. So the good news is we've seen some really positive trends since 2017. First of all, as the national level, China has pledged to be carbon neutral by 2060 in late September this year, so that and peak our carbon by 2030. So that's overall is the country's plan, and with that as a background, we foresee a fast energy transition in China. And with that also being said, the ICT sector here, we also foresee rapid growth in the digital economy in the future. So how to combine the low carbon transition towards carbon neutrality, and also what's the role of ICT sector can play in China is what interests us the most. And so I'd like to talk a little bit more about the our work here. We mostly focusing on corporate engagement work, just with a little bit of sector analysis and sectoral study. So last year we released 2 reports. One specifically looking at the data centers energy consumption and its carbon emission. So from our data, so it currently the data center sector consumed about like 161 terawatt hour in 2018, and it's roughly 2.35% of the country's total electricity consumption, similar to Shanghai city. And what we found is, although it might not be as large as cement or other sectors combined, actually the growth is what's concerning the trend. From 2018 to 2023, we're seeing that the sector grow by 66%, reaching about 267 terawatt hour. And it's more than Australia's total electricity consumption in 2018. So we first, by just really trying to mapping out and understanding what is the energy consumption level the China's overall data center. And then we had another report looking specifically at company level performance. It's a series of report called Click Clean. So previously in 2013, 14, and 15, we had the Click Clean ranking looking at how US IT companies what's their renewable energy commitment and procurement look like. And now in 2019 year and early this year, 2020, we have a report specifically only looking at China's big IT companies such as Alibaba, Tencent, and also with the co-location companies like GDS and Data Group. So we're looking at these up and rising Chinese big ITs and what's their current level of renewable energy commitment and procurement. So what we found is only one company has made a 100% renewable energy commitment. So that's Data Group. The rest of the big giants haven't made any commitments yet, and we only see one one company setting a carbon goal, that's Huawei, and the rest haven't done anything yet. But the positive thing is compared to like 5 years ago, I think we're seeing actually more companies buying renewable energy, even though they don't have a public goal. For example, like Alibaba and Data, they have actually entered into something similar to a short-term PPA in Hebei province. So we're seeing a gap of these companies are actually trying to buy renewable in the market with different scale. The scale is relatively still small, but they are trying to explore the market. However, in a long-term vision and carbon neutrality goal and 100% renewable energy goal, they are still lagging behind their peers. More specifically, we can see that a lot of the global companies, including the European and the US telecom companies, say like Apple, Google, and maybe European telecoms, they all have 100% renewable energy goal. So I see that's a little big gap of there. So that's the second report that we've done, checking at the company level. So we understand, we've been talking to companies that it's not like they don't want to procure renewable energy, it's sometimes they don't know how. And also the renewable energy market in China is still in the process of developing and opening up. So we don't have a lot of matured procurement mechanisms such as a 20-year PPA contract here yet. So we also host some of the capacity building workshops. We're trying to bridge Chinese companies with the EU and US companies where maybe the EU and US companies have more experience in the renewable energy market and also setting these goals. So we're trying to bridge this information gap by hosting these workshops and bring more international experience to China. So those are some of the work that we've done surrounding trying to move the data center and the IT sector in China towards 100% renewable energy. So just some final notes and observation of how corporate actions can help in moving China to low carbon or carbon neutrality in 2060. So there's a lot of, I see interaction between global and local in these big IT and the ICT sector. For example, we see like Amazon have setting a 100% renewable energy goal a long time ago for their data centers, and they have upgraded their commitment this year, early this year. And then we see that AWS starting to buy renewable energy project in China this year. So they have a 100 megawatt solar project. So these global companies with their commitment will have an impact in a local renewable energy market. So as the same as Apple, they have committed to bring their supply chain towards 100% renewable energy. So they have started an renewable energy fund in local market too. So these progress have been inspiring a lot of the action from the local company too. Like for example, like Alibaba, Tencent would be wondering, so how did Apple and AWS do it, and what are we missing here? So I think this interaction of global and local is very interesting. And we are also seeing like where Chinese companies going towards foreign market, like these big ITs, they enter into US market or EU market, they are being asked about their current level of carbon emission and renewable energy, percentage of renewable energy. So, so the higher expectation in the foreign market are also sending pressure or sending or driving some of the local companies change. And finally, I would like to also mention that it's not just global to local and local to global. And because China is very large, so different provinces have different level of progress in terms of the renewable energy market. There's also a layer of local to local impact. For example, I mentioned that Alibaba and Qing Data Group has done a renewable energy deal in one of the Hebei province. And this deal is being studied right now and maybe be able to scale up and replicate in another province. So these local to local level of impact are also worth paying attention to. So these are the potential impact that I see from corporate action, you know, in terms of driving local renewable energy market mechanism, just not driving new market mechanisms and also implementing the market mechanism here. And all in all, that's all I want to say for now. And looking forward to hear some other perspective on this. And I think global standard and expectation on the sector is high, and I'm interested in see how we can apply more of the global expectation to localized work.
Thank you very much, Ruki. It was very interesting, and it's a huge and amazing work that you are doing. So thank you, and I'm sure that you will have a few more questions at the end of this session. So as you mentioned, you want insight about the international level and global level. So I would like now to give the floor to Paulo Gemma from the ITU. Thank you, Paulo, for being here. So as an international organization, you act at the global level and you work on international standards and tools. So please, can you tell us more about this approach?
Okay, thank you, Anis. Okay, ITU is a United Nations agency. To be clear, what is ITU? We have around a big membership, including 193 administration, more than 900 private sector companies from the ICT world, so carrier, operator, and manufacturer. Okay, we work a lot in the past in the working group working party, sorry, where I am the chairman, and we developed in the past recommended standard for mitigate the effect of climate change in some cases, have a guidance on smart solution for telecom site, for data center and telecommunication room that we have just published last year and this year. We developed some years ago, and I think that in future we will update best practice for data center to reduce the impact of a data center. And okay, now we are moving on the circular economy point. That is one of the big topics to reduce the impact of ICT in the future. As taking what Anne said on the starting point, is the idea to have equipment that have a longer life, that are full, maybe, how much is possible recyclable to recover all the substances that are inside is something that is starting, but okay, at standardization level, we need to develop a common understanding of what is circular design, not to just to avoid a strange issue. And how we said, discussion of different topic on what is a circular, for example, what means a circular design, and give also that we try to have some KPI on how to say is a product is circular or not. This is something that we are developing, and we hope that is in future we will continue on this way to help the companies and all the actors to be more circular in future. Recently, we developed a series of documents. One is a standard, the other are some report, just following the Paris Agreement, setting a target for the ICT sector, a target for the CO2 reduction. This is a document that was made by ITU in collaboration with GSI, the GSMA, and the SBTI. So we give a trajectory for the ICT sector to be clean, to reduce the CO2 emission, if I remember well, in 2030 of 50%, and then go completely neutral. Following this document, we develop also some guideline, one for operator on how to reduce the CO2 emission, and the other that was just approved 1 month ago for the manufacturer. So the first is, okay, try to reduce, there is some action to reduce the consumption, sure. And this is the first step to become a more energy efficiency with respect to what they are now in different sectors, not only data center, but also the network and so on. And sure, use more, how much is possible, renewable energy. This should be a big issue because it's, as we know, some operators are just now have 100% of the energy is renewable, but some other no, because it's, the problem is to have renewable energy. And this is a very big challenge for the future, I think. We develop also a framework for the countries to integrate the national climate change adaptation. So in the sense, how to use the ICT to help people on the climate change, how to combat the climate change. That means alert system, but also build infrastructure more resilience, because it's what we see that the effect of climate change is something that is exists practically, and we cannot want to enter on this discussion, but the effect is that the atmospheric, like a thunderstorm and so on, is becoming more and more hard to respect, to survive to this. And this is something that we are making. Following this, we are also helping some countries to implement in their legislation some of our recommendations, some of our suggestions. We are working also on e-waste management, but for some countries also a very big issue on how to recovery e-waste, how to manage e-waste, and so on. And on this, we wrote also a series of standards on and guidelines on how to implement e-waste management in a countries, giving some objective. And this sometimes it look is completely separate from the rest, but in reality is the first step for the circular to come to a circular economy. Because to come circular economy, manufacturer can design a product that can be recyclable, can be work for a long life and not just 1 year. But at the end, someone need to recover the product. And this is a very big challenging in the future because it's hard to convince people, normal people, not to put the use a smartphone just in the waste, but just go to a recycling system, because as ITU is not working only with Europe, but is working with all the world. So I mean, there are also developing countries and so on, in which the situation is very different, and the solution could be very different respect to Europe. And this is something that will be a very big challenge for the future on how to solve some of the issues that they have, also in energy point of view, because it's as someone, okay, I am from Europe, I am from Italy, so I know the Italian situation that is very different from the rest. And was nice in ITU see the different problem that they have, because a solution that is working from Europe cannot work from Africa, cannot work from China or from Asia. So we need to find a good solution, but also be a little flexible to adapt to the local situation, because differently we cannot, if we think to write a standard that is working only for Europe, is not our goal, and we fail our activity on this. So we need to, when we write a standard, we need to find the consensus and the agreement between all the people and all the countries involved, not only one. This is sometimes very a big discussion on this. Okay. And as we said, normally ITU is a contribution-driven activity. So we work on the contribution from our members, from our delegate. So it's not something imposed by us or by me or by the director of ITUT. So we are looking for a contribution for all the people. So it's also from we like to work with Greenpeace if possible, and we work with Vodafone, sure, and all the other people that are here. Should be nice to work together with all of you. And this is all. If you have a question, please, I can answer later.
Okay, thank you so much, Paolo. Yes, I imagine that it's quite complicated to find consensus and solution that could be shared at the international level.
Yes.
At the European level, sometimes it's quite complicated. So at the international, I can understand that it's a big challenge.
Yes.
So thank you. So I would like to welcome Agnieszka from Vodafone. Hello, thank you, Agnieszka, for being here. And so please, you are from the private side. So please, can you tell us more about what your company is doing on the issue, and how to run the business, taking into account this environmental impact of the sector?
Thank you, Anais. Very, very happy to be here. So yes, I do represent Vodafone, telecommunication service provider with presence in Europe and in Africa. We are also present in India and Australia, but in a joint venture format, but overall 24 markets being covered by Vodafone networks. So we do see all the complexities of various geographies in terms of environmental improvements and tools available. Our motto is to connect for a better future, and we're optimistic about how technology and connectivity, including 5G, can change the future in a positive way and make sure it does not come at the cost of our planet. Our sector has an environmental impact. We do not shy away from it. We are, however, at least in Europe, compared very often to the airline industry. The difference is we believe that our impact is more easily solvable. I will try to explain that a little bit more in detail later on. So our two material issues are energy and carbon emissions and e-waste generation. We take a global approach, setting ambitious goals across all our markets, but markets are also encouraged to move quicker and be more ambitious where they can. So we have a very good example with Kenya, for instance. So Safaricom, our Kenyan brand, signed up for SBTs, so science-based targets, already last year, whereas Vodafone as a group will only join the community in 2 weeks. The implementation opportunities, challenges vary depending on country and continent, as we said. It reflects greater challenge in some markets, but also greatest opportunity to shape change at scale. So European operations, for instance, will be 100% renewables by July 2021, and African operations by 2025. Previous speakers mentioned that indeed it depends very much on the local market situation. So whereas I've mentioned Kenya being a good pupil, we will have some troubles, for instance, in South Africa when having access to renewables and so on. And in Europe is much more easier, of course, because of the current political push, because of the EU leadership in green aspects and so on and so forth. So we see very, very well how important it is, this political momentum on this issue. In terms of target settings, our focus is on energy efficiency, renewable electricity, and elimination of network waste. We believe it will help us to mitigate the environmental impact of the growth of our business and our consumers' increasing demand for data. I'm happy to share with you after the session our last annual report, where you can see that energy consumption stayed flat despite 49% increase in mobile data traffic, for instance, thanks to energy efficiency improvements, mainly due to AI and smart metering. It comes at additional capex, of course, but we also see it as an opportunity. So we ourselves as a sector, we see increasing environmental incidents. So last year we had our infrastructure damaged in Mozambique, for instance, because of cyclones. We see, of course, customers' trust and appreciation via green propositions and green products. And of course, we see it as a business opportunity, because with our Internet of Things business offering, we committed to reduce our consumers' carbon emissions by 350 tons from 2020 to 2030. So it's an equivalent of Italian emissions, I believe, from 2019. And we also want to shape this green ICT movement rather than simply follow the regulation. In terms of concrete examples, so in the field of energy efficiency, our main focus is on base station sites and data centers, which together account for 95% of the company's total global energy consumption. And we do it via energy management. So we have, for instance, towers and data centers platform that enables monitoring and automated optimization of power and cooling systems. We have dynamic thermal management of our technology centers, low power modes for radio equipment, etc., etc. On renewable energy mix, we're technically and economically feasible. We are installing on-site renewable generation, and where not possible, we use PPAs and then cover the remaining consumption via credible renewable tariffs or guarantees of origin. And network waste, we have 2025 target for reusing, recycling, and reselling 100% of equipment. We created internal marketplace so that all 24 markets can exchange equipment they want to share, so that we have the secondary use of certain equipment internally. Devices, another big topic of this session. So of course we do not have full control of the system. We can maybe do 30% of the value chain. So we do collect phones, we offer device care, we recycle, but other initiatives should happen in cooperation with manufacturers. So what we do, in spite of all these restrictions, we have launched LED Loves Green. Red is our logo. Initiative. So it's a customer offer on eco-friendly accessories. We also have a partnership with Fairphone, and we also launched half-sized SIM card format that halves the amount of plastic used to produce SIMs. It is provided to our customers in several European markets already, and will progressively replace the use of full-sized card holders across all Vodafone markets. So again, it shows that one good story can be then spread more widely. We, of course, work as an industry as well within GSMA. We are currently working on eco-rating initiative to give our consumers information according to one unified methodology on green products, because what often happens now is that every operator has its own methodology and same phone might be ranked differently, which is quite misleading. And it didn't work because we all tried it, and now we decided to join up forces and to create something jointly to unify it a little bit. And finally, we also do a lot of work internally as well, because we believe that we can all reduce our internet-related impact. So we often share some advice at the individual level, using smaller devices, using Wi-Fi, using ad blockers, watching YouTube without video. So yeah, just to conclude, the industry is taking action, and I said in one of the latest economists, green energy is 21st century power that will make geopolitics, and I think we can all sign up to that. Thank you. I stop here. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Iniesta. Thank you for all these examples and for giving us insights about all these initiatives. And we can see that it's possible to act. So thank you very much. I'm sure we will have a lot of questions. You can everyone can ask question in the Q&A, and we will take the question at the end. So now I would like to welcome Gauthier, our last panelist. So Gauthier, hello, thank you for being there.
Hello.
And you have been working for some times on this issue, and you are especially an expert of web design, but you have also a comprehensive vision of the value chain. So please, can you give us your opinion about the issue and what we could do to tackle it?
Yeah, sure. I've sent some slides. I don't know if we can go to the first one.
You can share your screen.
Okay, great. Well, I'm trying to share my screen. I'm going back. Okay. So you should see, yeah. So to introduce what we are talking about, or to give a bit more perspective about what we are talking about, it's important for me, and also from the French perspective, to show so that there is more than one factor. We are not only talking about carbon emissions or GHG emission there, and we have to understand where we need to prioritize and what is the most important action to be taken. So it was important to have this graphic showing you where actually the impacts seems to be happening on 4 factors. So here I'm talking from perspective of a LCA methodology. We have the chance in France to have some digital service LCA experts and to have some organization working on mapping the impact of the digital sector. So the first thing is to understand where the impacts are going between manufacturing and use. So far, we are not able to integrate the end of life in digital service LCAs. So we are still missing that part. But so far, we can kind of have an idea of where it's going between manufacturing and use. So since it's LCA, we don't use electricity as a factor, because electricity is not a environmental factor. It's just a vector of energy, and we need to look at the source of energy. So we look at primary energy consumption instead of electricity. We look obviously at GHG emission. We look at what we call abiotic or mineral resources consumption, non-renewable resources consumption, and water consumption. And so you can see that there's still we still need to work on the number there, on the data. But just when it comes to energy, it's half and half between manufacturing and use. And then most of the impact when we look at resources and water comes from manufacturing. And then GHG and energy are half and half, or splitting with use. So knowing that, we also need to look in which kind of which kind of activities, industrial activities, and use actually making these impacts. And that's why we when you do LCA and LCA methodology, and even when you look at energy intensity of data transmission, you will look at 3 different poles that are data centers, networks, and user equipment. And we know now that most of the impact comes from user equipment. It's just because there is lots of them. In France, from some French literature that we assume that there is right now on Earth 34 billion active equipment right now. And the fact is we are shipping on average 1.3 billion smartphones every year. So it has an impact. And yet, and also we are supposed to also deploy billions of connected objects. This will come at a cost that will be mostly supported, or that will be seen on the manufacturing side, which is where we should actually look a lot right now. And it's also important to know that even if all these impacts are coming right now, and we start to map them a bit more accurately than before, and we have a lot of improvement when it comes to energy efficiency materials or energy efficiency methodologies. But yet, this improvement doesn't mean that we go with the efficiency of use. I quite like this little graphic. It's focused on the USA. Oh, and maybe before it should be worthwhile mentioning that the European Commission just released a big paper on the energy consumption of data center in Europe, and they estimate that the electricity consumption increased by 42% in 8 years. So now we are consuming something like a bit 73 terawatts per hour for data centers, and 8 years ago it was 50. So even with the incredible improvement of materials, the energy consumption is still increasing. So there is a rebound effect here. So, and also to come back at the use, that's a graphic that comes from mostly from the US, and it has to be understood in the very specific network infrastructure that existing in the US. But even if the bandwidth or the average speed in US has increased a lot, at the same time, so the page load time has not decreased, has increased over time in the 9 years, last 9 years. So we also facing other question when it comes to use. We do have more efficient materials, more efficient services, but yet we are thinking from perspective of abundancy, of material abundancy, of energy abundancy, and bandwidth, and also calculation power abundancy, which is not the case in many countries, as it was said before. So it's also interesting to be a bit more cautious when we think of what we can do with energy, with technical improvements, because there is politics that has to be done, that is regulation that has to be done, and that's why we need a better understanding of the impacts, and also of setting limits to specific options in our technological development. And to phrase it, actually that's the way that's a phrase, this sentence is summing up my research right now. But I think that's kind of the goal that we're trying to answer here. But I wanted to phrase it that way: is what does the digital ecosystem, meaning infrastructure plus services, look like in or forward stabilized at +2 degrees? And how do we go there? And when we assess new technologies, new developments, new ways of doing, we should keep that in mind all the time. Because right now, the digital ecosystem is not making it. We are way off Paris Agreement and transition targets. So how do we get there? Because right now, if the GHG emission are increasing at a growth rate at 8% or 7% a year, if we follow Paris Agreement, we should reduce them by 5%. So we have a 12% gap right now. So how do we get there? And we cannot really assume that digitalizing other sectors will reduce energy consumption or GHG emission, because yet we need proof of that. Right now we are assuming that based on macroeconomic projections, which is not real life physics. And I was also asked by Anaïs and Arcep to talk about the GAFA, to see what we can get from the GAFA, or how we can be inspired by the GAFA. So we have, I mean, as a French person, we can only say that France is in thrall when it comes to the digital ecosystem. We are vassalized by American services, and that's why you can see our traffic. So like 55% of the French traffic is basically Netflix, Google, Akamai, and Facebook. And they are the ones setting up digital services and experiences, user experiences for us. And that the one that are leading us to a specific way of thinking about the digital ecosystem. But they are not the digital ecosystem. They're just one way of doing it, one part of it, but they're getting more and more power. And the fact is, all of what we experience in Western Europe as digital services are based on specific economic model, basically selling ads or selling equipment. So we also need to think that we cannot follow or be inspired by GAFA because they don't share the same goals. They have growth targets, economic growth targets that will not, at some point, may be possible to reduce. How we should reduce if we follow Paris Agreement. So it's also up to regulators. It's also up to actors that are not following the same economic goals, suffering social and environmental goals, to act and not to follow these actors. And finally, I've been working for the past 3 years on mapping how the environmental crisis is shaping a new way of doing digital services. And basically, if I can sum up right now, what is the practice now as a designer, as a researcher, and a consultant on this level, we have to think that there is two basic principles there that we need to follow, or to start working is we need to reduce the footprint anyway of digital services and infrastructure, and at the same time we need to respond effectively to need expressed by the user, not pushed on the user, and at the same time we can reinterrogate what they need, or if they truly need it, or it's just like they're used to something by other models, like the one proposed by the GAFA. And in terms of operational goals, the first thing you need to do is to do a service that promotes and increases the lifespan of equipment. That's the first source of impact, of environmental impact in the digital sector. So if a service is not designed with that in mind, it's also failing to address the main source of impact. And also you need to increase the lifespan of the service itself by making it relevant and making it easy to maintain. It's really important to think of maintenance right now when we think of digital development. And also one goal that is joining the two first is we optimize for the most difficult condition of use. We do not assume that everybody has iPhone 12, is using an iPhone 12 and 5G. We're optimizing for 3G poor network condition on an old or not that powerful equipment. And if it's working for this scenario, then it will be working for everyone else. And we don't break users depending on the socio-economic conditions. And also that the thing that is quite fantastic when you are working with sustainable digital design is also a fantastic key to also introduce all other good practices that we need to sustain and to foster in the digital ecosystem. data governance, accessibility, free software, and so on. It's also a way to put all that in order. And finally, and also one of the most important points is you need to measure impact. Before, after, during the project, you need to do running audits during your sprints. You need to know if you're doing it the right way. And basically what you do in a daily basis when you are doing all of that is you arbitrate the investment and mostly the reduction of resource consumption and the reduction of total impact of a given use. But also sometimes you are here to say that we need to invest a bit more energy, a bit more GHG emission, and also a bit more electricity for a specific use because it's worthwhile, because it has to be done, because that's where there is the most value. You also need that, but also you need to manage the overall reduction. And yeah, I think I will stop that. I will stop there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gauthier, for this insight. So now I have 10 minutes to ask questions. We took a bit more time, but I think it was important for you to say everything that you need to say. So please, I'm talking now to the audience, so you can ask question, all the question you may have in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we will take the last 30 minutes to discuss about your question. And so I will use my last 10 minutes to ask question, and during this time, please ask all your question you may have, and we will select them. So I have one question for the panelists. So we discussed about the level of intervention, and so we can see that an international level of action is needed, but that the local level it's also very important. So what is your opinion of the good level of intervention? Is there a good level of intervention? What about coordination and cooperation at the international scale on this issue? And is there a good coordination between stakeholders? And how to develop a truly integrated solution on this issue? I don't know, maybe Paolo or Agnieszka, you want to say something about it?
Shall I start, or Paolo, you would like to go first?
Please, Agnieszka, go, and after.
Very quickly. So it is a global issue. So I think we all agree that global response is needed. But what is interesting to see is that the EU took really this climate leadership as their key initiative, and you know the Green Deal was announced last year, and you can see a series of various announcements now. So by China, by Japan, now hopefully the US will be back on climate track too. So I think that it's good to have some sort of leadership that can achieve domino effect. So that would be my perception from political point of view. Also, I see that EU green diplomacy is working quite well. So as I said, we are present in Europe and in Africa, and some nice projects are being promoted by the EU in relation to certain African geographies. But yeah, all of that with respect to local sensibilities and characteristics, in order not to be perceived as an imposer or something. But some sort of push is important, and I think that the EU is taking this role, and now it's up to every region to maybe react and see how they can fit into this picture.
Thank you. Paolo, maybe you want to complete?
Yes, okay. As speaking about the Green Deal is interesting, what is happening around the world. During our last meeting, we received a contribution from Korea about Korean Green Deal also. So they are implementing, starting a Green Deal similar to Europe with sometimes different thinking, different implementation, and so on. And this is good, and as at you, we want to make like a place where to condivide and share experience on this. In fact, we want to collect different experience of the Green Deal to put all at a common factor to help the different countries to move on this. This is also something that is our role. So what you said, we write standard, but we also want to be a place where people can share experience on this topic that is really a very high-level topic that we can solve only if we work all together, not separately. But as we said a lot of time, please consider that it should be not only one solution that solves the issue, but there is a lot of small solutions that can create the mass to reduce the CO2 emission and have a better world on this.
Thank you. Yeah, sharing experience, it's something important that maybe Ricky, you want to develop a bit, because you said that sometimes it was difficult for the company to know how to act for environment.
Sure. Yeah. I definitely agree with our first speaker that it's a global issue. So meeting the carbon neutrality goal, it's important, and we're definitely seeing EU taking a step ahead, and also China joining as a very big country with a lot of carbon emission. It's a strong signal to internal and domestic IT companies. But also just with the ICT sector globally, I think there are a lot of experience that EU and US companies can share to Asia or like Chinese companies in terms of how to do the resource 100% recycling, reuse, and closed loop, and also with the renewable energy as well. Sometimes these experience sharing is important, just strengthening the sector confidence and expectation to go in that direction, even though there are a lot of localized differences in these markets. But overall, if the peers see their global peers are moving towards that direction, I think it sends a strong signal that's pretty helpful for the Chinese or the Asian companies to see.
Thank you. Gauthier, I don't know if you have something to say on this.
Oh no, I just realized that I didn't mute myself so far.
It's okay.
No, I think my perspective here is more from a French point of view, because the problem that we have right now is that French are doing pretty good work on green IT so far, but we are publishing in French, and we're doing a lot of good work in French. And I know Germans are also doing good work, and they're publishing also most of the time in German. So we also have like issue of communicating between countries even in EU. And the fact is we need a common place to share perspective, what we are doing a bit between communities. But I see a lot of potential in the EU going forward with this topic. We have what we need to go forward, pushing what it means to have a green IT policies. And also to emphasize something is to have more research funding dedicated to that, because to be fair, we don't know that much yet. We need so much more research. And we need research not only to assess environmental impact of digital industry, but also positive impact. We are very bad also assessing positive impact, to be fair. If you go into the LCA literature, you cannot really see if ICT is actually providing energy consumption. So that's also the fact we need research in both cases, because if we need to arbitrate, because it's what will happen in the coming years, we need literature going both sides, but also going a big lot into assessing environmental impacts.
Yes, thank you. And do we have literature on the impact of ICT for greening other sectors?
If I can speak as ITU, right, we published last year the first standard on our series on LCA methodology, just dedicated on which is the impact that ICT can have on our sector. This is the, as we know, this is the first standard that is what on this to try to put some step, some idea, some shared idea on this. We hope that in future will be sure an evolution of this, because it's very, very, as Gauthier said, we need more research and more common idea on to what to do on this set. Also, we publish this time a standard looking not on global SCA, but more on e-waste, on which is the difference moving from equipment to service. It is also our big topic that is as a discussion. Is I think 10 years, but is people is thinking to go to dematerialization and so on, but what is really mean and which should be really the impact on this. As I told you, now we are working on artificial intelligence and other emerging technology from environmental point of view, because we think that this new technology can have a good impact on the ICT and other sector, but we need to consider also what means implementing artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence means have some calculation, some data set in some way, in some place. So we need to see the balance between the benefit and the malefit when we implement a new technology. This is something that is need to be considered. That is one point that was never done in the past in reality, and now we are in this situation.
Yeah, I talk about this because it's not the focus on the session, but it's often a counter argument that the people used to underline when it's come to the impact of the ICT on environment. So it was important to underline that a lot of things remain to be done in order to find the right balance. I don't know, Gauthier, if you want to add something. You're mute.
I think Agnesa wanted to say something, so maybe I can.
After you, as you prefer. Yeah, so I just wanted to add, because indeed Gauthier made a lot of relevant points, and I agree with him on most of them. You know, we are against the laissez-faire, and this green and digital transition should be regulated. We indeed have more and more devices, but also these devices are being used, and now going to your point about the enablement, these devices are used to save carbon emissions. To save carbon emissions elsewhere. So we do not have scientific research, but what we do is our own measurement with the help of Carbon Trust. So that is an external audit, sustainable audit firm, and they try to see what is the impact of connected lighting, for instance, in a city. And there are already some findings from one of the Spanish cities that shows, for instance, that street lighting energy consumption fell by 68% thanks to that. And you have a variety of examples like that. Smart logistics, same thing. So optimizing route management can allow fuel consumption being down up to 30%. So all these things are happening, and we are trying to measure them. And I think that the taxonomy exercise at the EU level and the EU recovery, dual digital and green work stream will also help to somehow materialize it and to have more data around that.
Thank you.
So if I can follow that, is that right now I'm working on analyzing most literature there is on how digital sector could reduce carbon emission. Basically, I'm looking at the science-based targets. I'm looking at some documents that produce ITU, also based on plus 1.5 projects and all this kind of literatures. And the fact is, it's quite hard to understand how the projections are made, but I understand that it's projections, and mixing sometimes LCAs and also mixing macroeconomic projection. So far, I'm a bit uncertain about how digital industry can actually reduce carbon emissions, because if we look at LCAs, if you have if you take a little scope on your LCA, there you see energy reduction, and the more you open the scope, and the less there is energy reduction, and you can see even more rebound impacts. Rebound effects. So that's the concern I have right now, and I think we didn't take enough time to actually consider if digitalization in every sector, in any case, in any time, is actually useful or working regarding transition goals. And to go further with that, I think something that we really need at the UN on a global perspective is data sets for LCAs, public data, something that is not privately owned, but that can be used to do LCAs on a common methodology and on a common data set. That will be a quite fantastic thing that if we could have that.
Thank you very much. So we'll come back to the main focus on the impact of the ICT in itself. I see that we have one question from the audience. I don't know if the panelists can see the question, but I will read it out loud for everyone. So, are there any specific partnership or collaborations that you all identify are missing from your respective work? There is a lot of happening in this field, but most conversations tend to be siloed. What will help your work? Maybe Greenpeace, you would like to begin, Yuki?
Thanks. Sorry, can I clarify on the question? Is it asking partnership that's missing right now?
Yeah. Are there any specific partnership or collaboration that you identify that are missing today for your work?
Right, since we're specifically focusing on the energy part of ICT sector, I think with the China's big ITs going abroad in India market and in other Southeast Asia markets, and these regional level of low carbon standard, I think we need to talk about that. I know that the EU has a lot of discussions on this already, but with the new markets, I think we also need to be focusing on them a lot, since they're growing rapidly. And it's important that they don't lock in the carbon right now with new infrastructure. So.
Thank you. Maybe Paulo, I see you are on mute. Maybe you have something to say on this.
From your perspective, I think that actually the partnership that we are missing now is from other industry. Because in reality, what is happening, we think from IoT point of view or so on, we are introducing ICT in other industry level, not only in very many ICT. So, and this is a little missing the counterpart, because we are writing a standard for IoT from management of IoT, so we have no the collaboration, the participation from, I don't know, the transport industry or the white industry. This is something that is missing. What I see is that there is a lot of forum, a lot of company, a lot of group that is talking on different aspects. Sometimes in competition one to the other, that is something that cannot help to progress in reality. To find the way to collaborate between the different organizations should be a fantastic way to progress, really. It's not so simple in reality. It's really not simple.
Because,
and I agree with Gauthier about the LCA, that is I am not an expert of LCA. I see just the standard. I read, I follow the discussion that we have inside that you and our organization about LCA. And frankly speaking, if you don't have a fixed rule, you cannot think what you want. Is incredible on this. And for this is the real need for standard on this, not only from ITU or from other group. We need really a standard. Differently, I can say that is a fantastic goal, and Gautier said, no, this is very bad. So we need a common understanding on what we are doing.
Gautier, maybe you want to say something?
I mean, I can only say that for me, the main thing that we need so far is public environmental data when it comes to digital products, and just knowing how to do the LCA of a digital service is so tricky. So if there is not common data shared along the value chain, it will be hard to get results that are relevant for everybody.
If I can answer to this about the public data, we started in ITU to the idea to build a database, I think 8 years ago, but we failed because there is this data are owned by some company that sold, and so it's impossible to have this data public because it's very business, and this is something that is the reality. I think okay, we can try, but this is the reality. Unlikely.
And what is the collaboration today between ITU and other organizations such as the European Commission and so on? And
okay,
maybe
we have a very good collaboration with ETSI, that is the European Telecommunication Standard Institute. With them, they write a common, what you said, the technical line standard. So partly we are working together to the same standard. And okay, we have a collaboration sharing topics with Senelec, for example, with IC, with ISO, to try not to, as you said, reinvent any time the same thinking. So there is a sort of collaboration, but it's not so easy because it's to collaborate, we need to be as minimum two. And sometimes really there is a very, very big competition between standard organizations. That is, from my personal point of view, it is crazy. Because when I started to practically build this collaboration with ETSI, I are active on both sides. And at a certain point, we are in the two different rooms, the same people to discuss the same thinking and try to have two different results. That is completely crazy. It is completely crazy. This is why we are able to find an agreement to collaborate well. With our organization, a little more difficult because there is competition, different membership, different economical pushing. Because ITU and ETSI, the standard free of charge. Our organization are selling the standard, so this is a very big point on this. And for me, it's strange that to have a standard on some topic, I need to spend the money, and a lot of money, really. Now, this is, I don't know if in future will be changing, but this is actually the actual world that we have. So.
Yeah, actually, it's true that it's weird to see that we have competition and standards and stuff like that. But maybe, Agnieszka, maybe you can have competition with your competitors on the topics, and maybe it could be productive on this side. What do you think about it? And what is your collaboration and competition with other private companies?
So, well, it is an interesting question, because yeah, we do all want to differentiate and show that we are best in class. But yeah, I mentioned the example of rating our headsets and phones And when we were doing it on an individual level, it didn't really work because different market sensitivities and unstandardized procedures. So now we see that cooperation actually works better, which is an interesting learning. So let's see how this goes. Of course, the more standards. I keep on touching just so yeah, the more standards we have, the more certainty we have as well, because it's not an easiest exercise for us either to see what is really solid data, and you know, we don't want to be we don't want our sector to be accused of greenwashing or something. We want to make it right, but it needs to happen at the whole value chain level, because as I say, we are just part of it. So we need phone manufacturers on board. Other sectors, you know, like Paolo mentioned, energy and transport, all of those sectors that also digitize themselves. You know, it really has to be a big exercise, big comprehensive exercise, avoiding silos. I know it is a very tough task, but yeah, it's the only way out, I guess.
Yeah, in fact, regarding data-driven regulation, you know that at RCEP we believe in data-driven regulation. So I understand from what you all said that we have a problem with data because we need data, but we need to collect data, and we have a problem of privacy for beginning, and after we need to harmonize the data that we could collect. So first of all, do you have an idea of which data we would need to incentivize citizens, maybe to change their behavior, and to maybe to orient the behavior of the companies, and what could we do to collect this data? Should we change something in the law at the European level, or maybe at the international level? But how could we do that? What would be your idea on proposition on this?
If I may, maybe the thing, I'm not really sure about putting it on the side of the user because they don't share that much responsibility in all the manufacturing. I mean, if you got the impact, they cannot do much in the manufacturing. So maybe the main user is actually the person who's digging in the ground to get minerals. So it's also a change of perspective. The fact that you might, as a user of a smartphone, understand that the impact when it comes to minerals, energy, water, and so on, is to get all of that. Because right now we just focus on energy plus carbon, but resources and water are fundamental. And in many countries in which there is mining exploitation, there will be water complications. And I don't know like how in China how it's going, but you are sadly famous for the Baotou Lake in Mongolia, or for the extraction hazards caused in many places in China. And I know it might be quite hard to focus on resources consumption from the Chinese point of view. I know more of the south part of Shenzhen, but not of the north part. But on the user part, I will not put that much hold on it, because the only thing they can do is to keep the equipment as long as possible, knowing that they've been designed not to be working that long. That's the fact. I mean, when we look at the lifespan of a phone in France, of smartphone, is 22 months, something like that. It's going up because the sales, the shipping of smartphones are going down. So, but that's the main thing you can do. Keep your stuff longer.
If I can just add one thing, I agree that not too much burden should be given to consumer, but where we still see gaps is actually a general education on climate challenges and consequences of your actions. So, for instance, when we offer recycling possibilities in our various markets, we can maybe see 3 or 4 markets where there is a high uptake, and others prefer to keep their phones in the drawer, for instance, because they don't fully grasp yet what are the consequences, what are the options, and so on. So we should really also do this major educational campaign. We also did recently a study with our institute where only 54% of people interviewed, and it was 13 countries in Europe and 1,000 people per country, only 54% knew what the Green Deal was. So we tend to also, talk about topics within our bubbles, and we do not translate it into our countries. I speak also as a Polish. We are not yet the green champion. So yeah, I think also we need to also localize a lot and communicate better and educate better. Also, it's very much linked to all this fake news and misinformation on the internet. All these myths circulating that a Google search uses the same energy as boiling a cup of tea. So there is also some sort of educational effort that we need to do to make it work.
Yeah, Gauthier. And
yeah, sorry, I just want to add something. I think it's quite an interesting question to be asked because in China, I'm seeing still in the energy consumption and carbon emission, a lack of transparency from big companies, big IT companies and telecom companies. So I think we're talking about different stages of sustainability here at the global level. Our ranking surveyed, we're looking at 16 big data center or co-location companies and like 8 co-locations and 8 public cloud service companies. And probably only 4 among the 16 has released annual electricity consumption, and only 1 or 2 released carbon emission data. So even just that really basic level of transparency is still lacking in the China market. And these are big companies, like the Alibaba, Tencent, and GDS. They're rising pretty quickly. I think it's important that at the global level, we different markets should hold these big companies all accountable, like we set the global expectation and standard. So just want to leave that here.
Thank you, Gauthier. I'm sorry, maybe you want to add something.
Yeah, just to jump on what Agnieszka was saying. The question of education for me in the digital sector is quite specific because we also have to remind us that maybe that's the only global infrastructure that came with the discourse of being dematerialized. It never happened before. You cannot have this discourse when you are making roads, energy infrastructure, and so on. And so we also have to come back on 30 years of discourse of dematerialization. And the first thing, maybe the first educational project is just about getting people to understand the materiality of the digital sector and not put them responsible for some things they don't really see, or something they don't really, or not put them guilty or put them a burden or something they cannot even see. I think the education about digital materiality is very important because it's very specific to this infrastructure. And if we can do something on the user level, it's pretty much that. We have to show them how does it work. And I mean, I don't know, like in high school, in France, like when there is technology class, students will learn how to use Microsoft Office. They rather learn how to repair a smartphone. They rather learn how to understand what is an antenna, how to look for an antenna, rather than trying to to use Microsoft Word. So that's also this kind of thing. We need to learn the materiality. That's the first educational project of the digital sector. And then maybe you can understand environmental impact. But then you need to understand what a server is.
Yeah, it's true. it's a question of education on this topic. So I see that it's 10:56. So we have 4 left minutes. Maybe to conclude, you want to say a few words of conclusion. Maybe each one of you could say a few sentences about the main message that you want to leave to the audience on the topic. I don't know, maybe Yuki, you want to begin?
Thanks. I think it's all clear that the ICT sector and the IT sector overall has an important role to play in our low carbon future. So, and I believe at a global level, a lot of the EU companies and US companies have led the way to 100% renewable energy. And I think that with the rising rapidly, the Chinese companies such as Alibaba, Tencent could follow and scale up their current action. So.
Thank you. Maybe Paolo, you want to follow and to say a few last words?
I think that we need always company collaborate and share experience as much as possible at global level, and to share the common understanding of what they are making. I am a little aware what is we said that is a US company and a European company are so advanced. Sometimes I have a little different opinion on this, because it's we need to make clear difference between what is efficiency for energy, because efficiency could be very, very fantastic, and which is the real consumption. Not all we go in the same direction. If we look on 5G was said that they are very increase a lot the efficiency. This is true. They increase the efficiency around 100%. But the problem is that the bandwidth of the data will increase at 1000%. So the result is the power consumption of 5G is higher, as I think Agnieszka know very well, is higher than the 3G and 4G. So it's we need to be clear and give the real message to the people and share the information, the experience. This is very, very important on this.
Thank you. Agnieszka?
Yes, so I would not be an industry representative if I didn't conclude with the sentence that décroissance is not a solution. We should allow technological development, but in a regulated and climate sensitive way. And yeah, we should work all together, international institutions, governments, citizens, and businesses, to make it work. I keep having in my head this motto of the board game. I don't know if you know it. It's in the Loop board game, and they say, "Tell me and I will forget. Show me and I might remember. Involve me and I will understand." So I think that concludes well our discussion. Thanks.
Thank you. Gauthier?
Well, I will conclude with a question I've put on before. Is as a regulator, I mean, if I'm thinking from the perspective of a regulator, or from even from an industry leader, I should always answer, like, I should always question myself when presented a new solution, new technical solution, like, how does it answer? How is it an ecosystem that answers the question? What does an ecosystem, digital ecosystem, look like in a world stabilized at +2 degrees? Does it fit? Or does it not fit with the data available now? And when you look from this perspective, you also understand that there is a huge gap between what we are right now, where we are right now, and where we should be in 30 years. And you also understand that many models that we have right now in the digital industry does not fit. We cannot continue with an industry that is shipping 1.4 billion smartphones every year. And economic models that come with that have also to shift, have also to change. So it's not even about décroissance anymore. It's just about, like, we are not going in the right direction. So we need to change economic model, and we need, and then they will need a lot of research on that. It's also a question of reorienting what we think of progress, because if you think of just making a foldable phone for 5G ready and so on, yeah, you need a lot of research, funding, marketing on that. But to do a smartphone that will last 25 years requires as much research, as much financing, new economic models, as much regulation that the other one. It's just a different way of thinking of progress, including the environmental crisis. And to finish with what Paulo was saying, and it's also interesting from the Chinese perspective, 5G doesn't answer the question. It does not show us what digital ecosystem looks like at +2 degrees. We're just putting a coin into the carousel to do one more turn, but we are not answering any question regarding sustainability. That's the fact. And even the CEO of Huawei, Zhengming, I forgot his name, was saying, I think in 2019 in the Tencent conference, that even 5G is not what human societies are needing. So that also is interesting double discourse in the industry going on, and there is tensions of progress reshaping the industry.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just have to conclude and to thank you one more time to you all for your contribution and your very interesting participation today. So if I have to wrap it up, so a lot of work have been done, but there is still a lot of work remaining to be done, and we need collaboration, we need data, we need more research and studies in order to know what we can do to achieve the UN agenda and only +2 degrees Celsius. So I think we can be optimistic, but we still need to work, and the global impulsion is needed, but we need adaptation at the global level. And the more important is transparency. So we need to work on data. So thank you very much for being there today. I hope you learned something about this important topic of environmental impacts of ICT. So thank you so much. I can see that the IGF, thank you also in the chat. So thank you, and have a nice day, have a nice evening, afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.